Shalom. First, I want to say that I attended the local conservative synagogue today for the first time. And I went there at their 4:30 service. And they didn't have a minyan. A minyan is a group of 10 Jewish adults that are required to be in attendance for you to read from the Torah and say certain prayers. They didn't have one until I walked in. Then they counted me as a 10th Jewish adult, and they had their minyan and they could start their service. Now, I'd heard conservative will accept you as a Jew, but to see it in action was awesome. But I won't go into something. The pagans, the atheists, they often attack Jewish scripture. And one of the ways they attack Jewish scripture is what they think it says about women. Most of the time, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm going to give two popular instances and explain what the scripture is actually saying and how it's been interpreted. The first one, a woman has to marry her rapist. It should actually be phrased, a rapist has to marry his victim. Why? Because back then, if you were raped, you were used goods, you couldn't get married. The rabbi said, no, he's already raped her. He's not going to victimize her like this too. He's going to have to take on that responsibility. He's going to have to provide for her. And this whole new set of laws would come into play to protect the woman in her relationship with her husband. So this changed her life forever when you raped her? Well, we're about to change your life forever too. And you are now required to support this woman. You are required to care for her. You're required to attend to her needs. And this is your responsibility for the rest of your life because of what you did. See, in Jewish law, if a man and woman marry, the man has to give the woman a marriage contract. And it outlays responsibilities, one of which is, if this marriage is dissolved, I have to pay you this amount of money. And then the man is bound by that ketubah, that marriage contract. So there are things in there in the Jewish scripture and the Talmud solely to protect women. And if a man does not satisfy his wife sexually, she has a right to demand it and to take him before a rabbinic court if he does not do so. So yes, there are protections for women. This, where the rapist has to marry his victim, is one of them. Now another, a menstruating woman is considered impure. She's considered dirty. Well, the people who say that don't know what they're talking about. The word that's translated impure is tameh, and it doesn't really mean impure. That's just the closest word they could get to it. So what's the deal with the menstruating women? First, there's something else also called tameh. If a man has a wet dream, he also has to purify himself afterwards. And that should give you a little clue as to what it means and why it's there. You see, when the ancients saw a menstruating woman, what did it mean? Well, I'll ask the women watching this right now, what does it mean when you miss your period? Well, it meant the same thing to the ancients, and they needed children to survive. A menstruating woman meant she had missed this chance to conceive. There was a loss of potential life there. The same as when a man has a wet dream. You could have created life, but you didn't. So there's a loss of a potential life there. So you have to go to the mikvah. You have to immerse yourself and start a new stage of your life. It shows a respect for human life and the potential of human life. These people were trying to get pregnant, and they didn't. So what happens? While she's menstruating, they can't have sex. For 7 days afterwards, they can't have sex. She has to go in the mikvah, same as a man does after a wet dream. Well, why the waiting period? What's happening there? Think about it. If they can't have sex and they really want to, well, it makes them want to have sex even more. So when the waiting period is up, they're all eager to try again. And they're trying again when the woman is fertile and ready to conceive. It's actually a pretty smart thing when you think about it. So you can see how respect for a woman, respect for life, gets twisted by these people into the exact opposite. But I hope you enjoyed Shalom.